This is Mark Bell. I'm coming to you from Phil's Coffee, one of my favorite coffee shops here in Davis, California. And I'm here today to talk to you about death. Something that people don't like to talk about. People don't like to talk about stuff that hurts. People don't like to talk about stuff that's painful, but I think it's important. My oldest brother Mike, Mad Dog Mike Bell, he died December 14th of 2008. And even though it was a long time ago, it's still painful. It still hurts our family. Somebody might ask the question of how do you cope with somebody dying? I have a few techniques and a few methods, some of which may be helpful, some of which may be useless, because this is just really hard to deal with. Even with so many years past, it's still hard. It's still difficult every day. And I would think about it more like this. It's not really something that I coped with. It's something I'm coping with. It's something that you learn to deal with over the long haul, over a long period of time. It's something that has deeply hurt my family. It's something that has sometimes it has kind of splintered the family apart, and other times it has gelled the family together. My brother had many drug and alcohol addictions. I don't really fully know or understand what he died of, as this happens a lot with people that abuse drugs. He died in Costa Mesa, California, in a rehabilitation center, where he was trying to straighten things out. He was trying to get his life back together, but he was, really falling short. My mom and dad, it still weighs very heavy on their heart. I think my dad has a pretty good perspective on it, where he tries to kind of zoom out and think about it more in general terms. And my dad is very much a religious person, and he maybe is just of the belief that certain people are designed to be here for a certain amount of time. And so I think that's how he deals with it. My mom is still just really deeply hurt by it. I'd have to say, out of all the things you can go through in life, I mean, that just makes me want to throw up to even think about, something happened to my own kids. It would just be impossible, impossible to deal with. My own children, though, were the difference makers. I am married. My wife, Andy, and I, we have Slingshot together. We got SuperTraining together. My wife was a huge part of it. My wife was always by my side. She still is always by my side for everything. But the biggest ingredient in the mix for me coping with my brother was my children. When my dad told me about it, I was obviously very emotional. My mom was crying in the background. She was basically screaming in the background, which is just an awful thing to hear. I didn't know where to go, because I'm I can't hide anywhere. And that's all I was thinking of. I just need to hide. And I didn't mind crying in front of my wife, but I didn't want to cry in front of my children at the moment, because I just didn't know what to say to them. I didn't know how I was going to face them. And so I went into our bathroom. I was just in there for 15 or 20 minutes, just trying to figure stuff out, and I started to calm down, and I was man, I just need to get the hell out of the house. And so I got in my car and went for a drive, and I called my best friend, and that's Jesse Burdick. Reached out to him. He gave me some advice. He was whoa, what's going on? What are you talking about? Because I was kind of talking crazy talk, and I was crying. It was also raining out that night, and it was just, I'm probably remembering it being a little different than it really was, but it was really, really shitty weather out. And I just got in the car, and I didn't know where I was going. Jesse said to me, he said, dude, where are you going? What are you doing? I was I don't know. I was I need to get around some friends or something. Jesse lives kind of far away. And so I buddied up with some friends from the gym. I called my friend Treston Schull. I went over to his house, and then a bunch of people from SuperTraining gym surrounded me, Jim McD being one of them, and a bunch of other, I can't remember everyone from the moment, but a bunch of people surrounded me in that moment and really helped me. Jesse's main concern, and this could be a concern for all of you, whenever something tragic happens in a friend's life or in a loved one's life or someone that you know, you should be aware, like, be very conscious of the fact that this could be a very slippery slope for this individual, and they could go out a night of drinking, or they could go and hurt themselves somehow, or they could do something that they can't get themselves out of. You're in a weakened state, you know? And so that was Jesse's first concern, was like, where are you going? And he was like a parent to me at that moment. Where are you going? And like, why are you going there? And like, dude, like, you're not gonna drink or like do any pills or do any drugs or anything. And I was like, no, dude, I'm good. Like, I just need to be around some other people. When I later that night came back to my house, I saw my kids, and I just saw like kind of the looks on their face. They still didn't know what was happening, but I was just like, well, you know, good, bad, or indifferent, it doesn't really matter how I am. It doesn't really truly matter how I feel. I need to be a man, and I need to be available for them as soon as possible. So it's not like I stuffed the feelings to the side or anything. My wife was right there to help with everything too. But when you have children, it changes everything for you. And when I saw them, I was just like, okay, someone has died. I still have other great family members to live for. Nothing has changed in terms of like my purpose and in terms of how I feel about myself. It just sucks. I just lost my brother, my big brother, my childhood hero growing up. And so, you know, it hurt really bad, but I was able to turn the corner mainly for my kids. Chris, on the other hand, didn't have a significant other. He was living in Los Angeles at the time. I was living in this area, Northern California. He was in Southern California. And Chris, over a period of time, deteriorated. He had a bilateral hip surgery. He was in a lot of pain. He didn't know how to deal with that. He didn't know how to cope with my brother's death. He was also all alone down there, didn't have family members. And so he went in an opposite direction. You know, after Mike died is when the invention of the slingshot came around, and is when my life skyrocketed. And Chris, unfortunately, went a different direction. But what remains similar to both of us is it hurts the same for both of us. However, Chris was closer to Mike. They shared a lot more things. They were like a year and a half, 2 years apart. I'm more like 4 years apart from Chris, and about 6 years. I was about 6 years difference from Mike. So those two, you know, they grew up together. They grew up around each other. They had to share stuff. They had to fight for stuff. They had to, fight for my parents' attention. And I was the baby, so I just sucked up all the attention anyway. But it isn't easy to deal with. But here, the number one thing, I think, the way that you can kind of deal with this kind of bullshit in your life, the way you can deal with someone's death, is you can try to think of the characteristics of that person and think about, like, what are the positives? What are the cool things that makes that person? And then you can try to have that live through yourself. And my brother, you know, he was tough. He got in a lot of fights. He beat the hell out of a lot of people. He just didn't let stuff slide. Like, if something didn't go with him, it was against him. If something you said didn't fly with him, then he was going to argue. If something you didn't fly with him, he was going to punch you. Like, he just. Now, I'm not that volatile of a person. I don't have that capability. I don't have the energy to do that either. But that was something that I took on. It was a characteristic that I took on, and I've utilized it in business and utilized it in other places in my life where I kind of just took on this attitude and persona of, like, I'm just not going to take shit from people. You know, when somebody does me wrong or something happens, I'm not going to necessarily throw punches, because I don't think that, I saw that as a negative attribute of my brother, but the fact that he would stand up for himself, I saw as a huge positive. And so I would deal with it in my own way, which is to just discontinue dealing with you any further. And then also too, like standing up for myself and telling people flat out, no, I don't agree with that. I don't like that. I don't think that's true. I think you're full of shit. And I think some of these things are things that make my podcast interesting to people, because when someone does say something on my podcast, I can call them out. And a lot of that's because of how courageous my brother was, and I'm like, I could use a little bit of that. My brother Mike was the first person. He got us all into lifting. He had a magnetic personality. A lot of people were really drawn to him. He got Chris into lifting, he got me into lifting, and our family has forever been into lifting ever since. So like without Mad Dog, we're not doing this right here. Without Mad Dog, there's no SuperTraining. Without Mad Dog, there's no Slingshot, because I don't know, like, if I'd be lifting, or I don't know what I would be doing. But whatever he was interested in, I was into, because he was our leader. You know, when you're a little kid and like the older kids doing stuff, like that is the coolest thing ever. My brother was like that, you know, times a million with me. I really was into whatever the hell he did, and that's why I played football. That's why I lifted weights. That's why I later went into professional wrestling. He and I were tag team partners, Hell's Bells, and we had the opportunity to wrestle together multiple times. We actually even wrestled together one time for WWE, which was an amazing experience. And you know, when he passed, you know, I decided that I was done with wrestling. He was my tag team partner, and I couldn't go on without him. But you know, life goes on, you know, and do those people that pass on, people that die, do they want you to sit around and feel sorry for yourself? You know, if I was to die today, obviously I would love for people to care about it, right? I'd love for people to think about me. I'd love for people to think about it. But I'd rather have them proceed with their life. I'd rather have them continue to pursue their hopes and dreams, and to think about the things they really want out of life, rather than even people close to me, rather than sitting around crying about it, complaining. Life is interesting. Life is really weird and strange in some ways. I don't know why certain things happen to certain people. But the last thing I'm going to finish with here, in a way that I'm more comfortable with his passing, is the fact that at a certain stage, no matter who you are, whether it's a child or whether it's your brother or sister or whatever, you're gonna like wear out your welcome. And my brother definitely rode that line, but I never did turn my back on him. I always tried to leave the door open, even though I was frustrated with him, even though there's many times where I didn't answer his phone call, and there's many times that I was really pissed and frustrated with him. I one day realized, and this is important for all of you out there that deal with people that have drug addictions. I one day realized, and this was my wife kicking it to me straight, she said, you cannot try to apply rational thought to somebody who's acting irrational. My brother was bipolar, he also was into drugs, and so the thoughts that I had on how he should act or how he should handle something or how he should communicate with me was way different than what he thought was appropriate, right? He was not in his right mind. You can look at it that way, whether it was the sickness of having a mental disorder or whatever it was. That's something I think that all of you, it can really benefit your life tremendously to take that on. And don't try to apply rational thought to people that you feel are irrational. And that's drugs, mental disorders, or otherwise. Like maybe somebody's just like an asshole, right? That's okay to kind of lump them in that category. I guess lastly, I'll just finish up with this. You know, it's been 11 years now, and I still miss him. His phone number is still in my phone, even after switching my phone, 15 times, since his death. Whenever I see wrestling, I think about him. Sometimes randomly, it'll just hit me, and I'll just, get emotional about it. Sometimes I'm at a trade show, and one of you guys will come up and say, "Hey, I saw Bigger, Stronger, Faster. Like, how's Chris doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, Chris is doing good." And by the way, Chris is doing amazing right now. He did get addicted to drugs and alcohol. He did fall in the same trap as Mike did, but he was able to dig himself out of it. As a family, because of the loss of Mike, we were able to really come together and converge hard on Chris and make sure that history didn't repeat itself. So we're able to help him, assist him, and he's doing amazing. He's been about 5 years sober. He's been doing really good, but it still hurts. It still sucks. Life goes on. You got to figure out a way to work your way through it. If you know somebody, you know someone that's acting strange, somebody that's been in your life for a long time, just haven't seen them in a long time. They're not returning your calls. They're asking for money. They're acting a little different. They're acting weird, suspicious. They're acting differently than they used to act. Reach out and just say, hey, you know what? I want to make sure that you're okay. Next time you see him, look him in the eye and say, hey, dude, is there something I can do for you? Can I help you? I always did that with my brother. The last conversation I had with him was on a Friday. I competed the next day on a Saturday, and I was telling him how excited I was. I was pumped up. I wanted to try to break an all-time record. I was able to do that, but unfortunately wasn't able to call him back and tell him how that all went down. Try not to turn your back. Try not to allow your families to wear out their welcome. You can simply say to them, hey, like, anytime you're ready to get help, I'll be here for you, but otherwise I can't help you because I'm just enabling you. So whenever you're ready to make the switch, whenever you're ready to get help, I'll be here to try to help you. Anyway, I hope you found this helpful. I hope you found this useful. It's painful for me to go through, but I hope you gained something out of it. Strength is never weakness. Weakness never strength. Catch you guys later.